go from there. So welcome everybody. My name is Stacy Besternan, and then my co-worker here, Jana Netterfield, is joining me. And so I'm just going to introduce myself really quick, and then she'll hop on and introduce herself. So my name is Stacy, like I mentioned, and I've been working at Allina Health for 20 years, and all in prevention-based wellness programming. So anything from mindfulness training to wellness coaching to resiliency work. We go all over the metro area doing a variety of presentations, and so I just really wanted to welcome you to this one today. Jana? Okay, we're unable to hear her right now, but she'll jump on as soon as she is able.
I am here. I'm here. Hi, welcome everybody. My computer wasn't cooperating with me. My name is Jana Netterfield. I'm Stacy's co-facilitator today. And I have been with Allina Health for about 10 years and also have been working on wellness and prevention, variety of different initiatives, community benefit work. And I welcome everybody here today. This presentation is going to be very hands-on. Whatever you're expecting, I encourage you to just put all of your expectation aside and be very open-minded with just this clear understanding of new learning. So welcome, and let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you, Jana. All right, so staying connected while physically distant. Let me see if I can get to the next slide. All right, so some learning objectives today. We'll definitely go through our current state of social connection, which we're all in, and then we'll understand the importance of relationship and human connection, so we'll relate those two together, and then we'll just talk about the different modes of connection: social media, talking on the phone, speaking face to face, and what that means not only for our own brain chemistry, but what it means to socially connect. And then we'll identify some steps, have some resources for you to really help improve social connections while maintaining our physical distance that we're under. So the current state, as we're well aware of, is there is definitely a lot of fear and worry about our health and the health of others. And then there's also fear about financial situation, job loss, support services, and all those things that are kind of in limbo right now. And then we've been seeing a lot of changes in sleep. Either we're sleeping too much or even too little, and the same with eating patterns. Definitely a lot of changes in those, and that is related to our current state. And then we also see an increased rates in loneliness with this physical distance and socially isolation. And along with that, we see an increase in depression, increase in substance uses, which will go into how that really relates to our brain chemistry. And what we can do to kind of balance out our own brain chemistry. And then also we've been seeing a lot of chronic health problems just getting worse, and you know, along with this pandemic. Along with that current state, we're really seeing we're really isolated. You know, with the whole quarantine, you know, our physical distance rules, and we're seeing a lot of changes in our normal routine. And so we know humans are not designed for isolation. We're just acutely designed for connection. We're meant to connect with each other. We're meant to live in groups and have family and have friends and be together and really find that connection. It plays a huge role in our brain chemistry. So we do have, you know, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And we've always been told, you know, for survival, we need that fight or flight response. And that's our stress response that releases that cortisol and that adrenaline. And yes, that is definitely true. Like if you're walking down the sidewalk and you step out onto the street and a car is coming, you do not have to tell your feet, okay, take a step back, be safe. Your brain already does what it needs to do to survive. So we need that part of our brain. We need that fight or flight for survival. We just don't need that part of our brain to be active all the time. And we're seeing that it definitely has been. So what can we do to kind of flip the switch into saying, okay, I'm doing well. Everything around me right now is okay. And so we really want to look at that connect, calm, and protect. That is our relaxation response. And that's where we can rest and digest. And that's where we can connect with others and where we can really thrive. And that hormone, the variety of different hormones, there's serotonin and dopamine. Well, one that I'm really going to go into today is that oxytocin, that hormone oxytocin. So right now, what I really want you to do is, just sit back, relax. If you get into a comfortable position, if that's your feet flat on the floor, and just take a couple of deep breaths. Just be here in this moment. In this moment, there's about 200 people on this webinar, and we're all connecting. Even if it feels like you can't see each other, we're all in this time and in this moment and in this space together. It's a shared human experience, and it's very, very powerful. So just if you'd like to close your eyes and just feel that moment of connection, it's an experience. And just being aware that we'll never have this moment again. All 200 people will never be in this moment together as we are in this state. So sometimes that can really help in any situation to know that there really is more good in the world than bad. And being able to share that human experience with 200 people is quite amazing. So go ahead and take a couple of deep breaths in, fill your belly, fill your lungs, and exhale fully. And really think about when we're in this moment, what's happening in your mind and in your brain and in your imagination and how that's affecting you. One more deep breath in. Exhale fully. Good, thank you.
All right, so it's really interesting as we went through this exercise to think about the human nature of who we are and maybe some characteristics of our own personality. It really doesn't matter, research shows, whether you're introvert or extrovert, you still need social connection. Not only you need social connection, you also lose the perception of, adequate perception of reality in this socially distant or physically distant world that we live in right now. So it's really interesting because some people say, well, I am not really a hugger. A lot of us who are like, bring it on, let's, come on in for a hug. We kind of miss that social touch. Whether it's with people that we know very well or with people who maybe are co-workers or somebody that needs comforting, that we really want to be physically very close with. So some folks would say, you know what, I really, that has never been a part of my personality. I don't really care to hug people or touch people, nor am I really very social. So I guess I process this pandemic and reality of physical distancing very differently, and that's precisely the case. You might process it differently, but it still affects you in a very compelling way. So what we see and what research shows recently, especially in the last couple of months, that people who are more introverted or have the less desire to be physically in contact with other folks, whether they're related to them or not, still need the perception of the rest of the world being as is. So what that means is they want to envision or imagine that other people are still hugging, they're still what we will call lovey-dovey or much of a socially and physically in contact with each other. So you still need that reality of how the world used to be. And sometimes for those of us who may be a little bit more introverted, it can be difficult because it seems as though the rest of the world is becoming all one-colored. So guided imagery is really one of the tools that can help any of us, introverts, extroverts, in whatever characteristic applies to you, to find that space that becomes more of a normal, or feels more of a normal or reality that you would like to be in. Guided imagery is based on a visualization. So what you basically do is you find a safe space for yourself. And there's a variety of different guided imageries that you have for yourself. Sometimes it's a safe space guided imagery where you feel threatened, or you feel uneasy, or you feel really stressed. In some realities, such as physical distancing, you might want to envision, you might want to have a visualization of, say, Minnesota State Fair, that we're not going to have this year in a way that we're used to, or Renaissance Festival, or some gathering of people that you normally would go to, like a graduation. So there is different varieties of guided imagery that you can utilize. So a couple of steps that you can take to create this reality for yourself is finding comfortable, quiet space where you can just kind of sit down and not be distracted by anyone. Closing your eyes and breathing deeply. We did part of that exercise just now with Stacy. And just start with those deep breaths and feeling a little bit more at ease. And imagining that happy place. What is it for you? You know, when people say sometimes, I go into my happy place, what does that really mean? And again, just like I said, it means something different, maybe in a different time in your life, or in a different situation. You know, for you today, it might be, if you can't attend an event, it's visualizing being together with people. Sometimes guided imagery can connect you with people, specifically individuals, not just imagining a gathering, but perhaps folks that you don't have any physical contact with, and just having really hard time staying connected to. It might be someone you can't see right now, you can't go and visit right now due to our current situation. It also can be somebody who is no longer living. Guided imagery is a really powerful tool. It's utilizing your mind to create a connection that is beyond physicality. And that is really important to remember. If you had somebody who passed, and it can be an animal or a loved one, a person in your life, and you really missing them in a very emotional and physical sense, you can create a reality in your mind's eye that will allow you to connect with them. It can be a very powerful emotional experience, so you have to be prepared for that. However, it will allow you to feel like that person is still with you, and as though you can touch them without actually touching them. So you can add those details to your guided imagery about who the people are in your mind's eye, who is walking beside you, what smells do you smell, what visual cues do you have, what are you hearing, variety of different details that make you feel comfortable and more connected to whoever is present with you in that space. And then hold on to that feeling. Guided imagery is wonderful because once you create that safe space and a happy space for yourself, you can go back to it anytime. It doesn't have to be a lengthy meditation or reflection. It can be literally a couple of seconds in your head where you can just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just momentarily envision or imagine that space that really brings you a lot of comfort, or people who bring you a lot of comfort that you want to be connected to.
Yeah, so our brains are so very powerful, and what we can imagine, we can almost feel in our bodies that we're there, and that's so very powerful. So we really want to look at that brain chemistry and connection and how they relate to each other. And so oxytocin is a naturally occurring hormone in our bodies, and it really is a love and like hormone. It really enables our behaviors of connect and calm and protect. And our parasympathetic nervous system does run on oxytocin. And that part of our nervous system, the parasympathetic, is our calm and relax and our digest system. And so oxytocin definitely, when it is released, it leaves us feeling loved, soothed, warm, and safe. And it has to, I need to mention that it does cling to our brain's opioid receptors. And so when we're prescribed an opioid, it puts you into the parasympathetic state just through the chemical reaction. But opioids really aren't used to connect. They're more designed to make you not mind that you are disconnected. And some people definitely need these these medications, and working with a physician, and that's okay. We need to make sure that we're very holistic in what we're doing in our mental health, and really get the help that we need when we need it, and that's okay. When we're talking about oxytocin as a hormone, we know that it also attaches to the opioid receptors, and it makes connecting with others pleasurable. Like I mentioned, it helps relieve stress, and it allows those warm feelings to happen between friends. And so what's really cool is these opioid receptors are all over the body. So in the brain, so it definitely can change brain chemistry. In our spinal cord, so not only does it's in our brain, but the spinal cord helps that the oxytocin affect all our areas of the body. So, the peripheral nerves, our nervous system. So for example, if you get goosebumps when a song or when you're listening to music, that is oxytocin. Or anytime you get goosebumps without kind of feeling chilled, that's oxytocin affecting all parts of your body and your nerves, and that's very healing. And then opioid receptors are also in your digestive tract, so in your stomach and your intestines. So if you've ever seen someone and you have butterflies in your stomach, that's oxytocin. So it's a really cool hormone, and we all have it in our bodies. As it relates to binding with these receptors, it's often referred to as a cuddle hormone. And like Jana just mentioned, not everyone likes to cuddle, and definitely that's okay. A simple way to keep this flowing is to give someone a hug. And today we will be going through a variety of different tips and tools for everybody. So people who like to hug and people who don't, and everything in between. So research shows that, of course, the hugging is the #1 way to release that oxytocin. Usually, when we look at the research, for that oxytocin to really be healing, we need about 8 hugs each day. So either through guided imagery or real hugs. And so in this time, in our current state, we're not getting many hugs. Usually kids need about 13, but like I had mentioned before, and like even Jana had mentioned, there's so many other ways to increase that oxytocin, which we'll go over today. Oxytocin and that binding with those opioid receptors is increased by the interpersonal touch, or any way that you can connect with someone else. It reduces our cardiovascular stress, which means our heart will be stronger, our blood vessels will be stronger, and if our heart and blood vessels are stronger, then we'll have a reduced risk for chronic diseases like heart attack and heart disease and blood pressure and strokes, and the list definitely goes on. And then it also improves our immune system, so we're less likely to get sick. So the more oxytocin that is circulating through our body, the less likely we'll get sick. So our immune system is very strong. So there has been a really cool study, and it's the longest study on adult development on health and happiness, and it was through Harvard, and it's going on over 80 years, and it's a pretty good study. At year 75, they came out with all the results. So it is they took 2 groups of men, one Harvard students, and then another group of men in the young men 18 to 21 in the inner city of Boston. And so I'm going to play this video, and it will explain what happened in the study.
Have you ever noticed how some people just light up a room from the moment that they walk in?
Have you ever heard of the Harvard study that ran for 75 years to assess what makes us happy? It's a revolutionary study in psychology. It followed the lives of 2 groups of men for over 75 years, and it now follows their baby boomer children to understand how childhood experience reaches across decades to affect health and well-being in middle age. So what keeps us happy and healthy as we go through life? If you think it's fame and money, you're not alone. But according to psychiatrist Robert Waldinger, you're mistaken. As the director of a 75-year-old study on adult development, Waldinger has unprecedented.
Okay, so I was told that we can't see that study, and I apologize. So what we are going to do is link that into our follow-up email with our post survey, and then you can watch it right in there. So, and that's okay. That happens with technology. So, no stress at all. So, in case that happened, we put some takeaways here. And so the study showed that the social connection is really good for us, and that loneliness actually kills. And so as it, because it was a 75-year-old study, what they really looked at was, they were really surprised that at age 50, their cholesterol levels at age 50 did not relate to the health of people at the age 80, which they thought it would. It was actually how much joy they have in their life and how much personal relationship and close relationships that they had. So I'm going to have Jana go through this slide, and she can talk a little bit more about the study.
Yeah, if you had a chance, please take a look at the video. It's pretty short, it's just 2 minutes, and it's a good synopsis of of some of the bullet points that we have here. But actually, it was a very exciting study, and the study showed that loneliness really kills. It decreases your life expectancy by about 14% if you constantly feel lonely and disconnected from people in your life. And social connection is not just good for us, it proved to be healing. It was amazing that people's weight, cholesterol level, chronic disease, none of these things really mattered. They attributed to how well people lived their life and their quality of life, but it really did not attribute to their level of happiness and overall longevity. What did really matter is, are they connected to the people in their lives, truly connected to them, not just kind of a shallow, I'm a part of a family, but I really don't talk to anyone. Do they have any close friends? How often do they have interaction with people that matter to them? And it really not the number of relationships that really mattered. It is really the quality of those relationships. So in other words, there were people who had one friend, but that one friend was long time, 4 a.m., call me anytime with any kind of issue type of person that they could rely on at any point. And some folks had 10, and some had 20, and some had 25. But really, again, it was not the number. So a lot of times when we work with teens, they ask us, well, I only have 1 or 2 friends. I'm not really, as social as some other kids out there. Or when we work with adults, it's the same question. Well, you know what, over the course of my life, I've only maybe formed a couple of really strong relationships. Does that really matter? The study shows really no difference whatsoever. It's just the quality of relationships that really matters at this point. What it also showed that it protected your body from chronic illness and disease, and also protected your brain health. So those people who had those really strong relationships, they weren't necessarily immune to brain diseases, but they were a lot more resistant to progression of any kind of illness. So if they got some sort of a chronic disease, got diagnosed of chronic disease, or some kind of a brain disease, it progressed a lot slower, and they were able to stay a lot more aware and have a better quality of life than those people that did not maintain very solid, good social connections. What it also showed, which was really interesting, and I do encourage you to maybe YouTube it and Google it, and there's a lengthier video, it's about 12 minutes, and it goes into real details of that study, and it talks a lot about the last point here, is that relationships are not easy. The perception that we have in our current society is that it's the days of our lives, or it's a soap opera, or it's what we see on TV. And that's what a lot of our kids and all teens and young adults grew up with, is imagining that relationships are this one specific beautiful Cinderella way. And it's not. The study showed that those people who were the happiest at the end of their life, or getting into their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, were people that were in messy relationships. They're difficult. and perhaps sometimes uncomfortable. Marriages and friendships that were cyclical, went up and down, and constantly required a lot of work. They required a lot of energy, and they presented a lot of differences of opinion and required constant and ongoing communication. So the interesting fact is those things that are healing to us, the most healing to our body and our mind and our spirit and our soul, are, believe it or not, things that we need to work on.
Yeah, definitely. And oftentimes what happens is it's so easy to give up and not learn those communication skills that we need. And that's what we need the most, is to really have those critical conversations and kind of figure out how to communicate. And so, through this pandemic, with the physical distance and the decrease in interpersonal connection and touch, the New York Times just put together this how to hug during a pandemic, which is kind of an interesting take on it. And so what they basically said was, maintain your 6 feet of distance, and then when you're ready to hug, come in, give your hug, making sure that you're not face to face, that you're looking in different directions. And as soon as you're done hugging for a couple of seconds, hopefully maybe around 10 seconds or a little bit more, then what you do is you back up and maintain your 6 feet of distance. So that was kind of an interesting thing that, who ever thought that we would need a newspaper to give us tips on how to hug during a pandemic, but there it is. And so what we're going to be doing today is going through many techniques for any situation. And so here's just some ways to just get really creative and how to make that connection. We'll be going through some of these kind of in detail a little bit later, but the first one is just to give yourself a hug. You can do that just right now. That in itself, is very powerful. When you see someone giving somebody an air high five, we've been seeing this a lot more out if we're out shopping, is people have been putting a picture of their own face, smiling on a button, and wear it around when you're wearing a mask. It's really hard when you're trying to smile behind the mask, you're trying to smile with your eyes and just make that connection. And so wearing a button with your face smiling is another way. Getting outside, getting some outdoor play dates, always a great way to do it. We've seen this a lot where people are going for visits and saying hello from the window, and just to get that eye contact and that connection, even if it's through a window. Surround yourself with pictures of loved one. Going through old photo albums is always a great way when you can't be near or if they're miles away, just to reconnect, just like that guided imagery. Looking at letters, cards, but whatever it takes when we're connected, and then reach out and reconnect with those you've lost touch with. And now is the time to say, hey, I miss you. What's going on? So those are just some ways of getting creative to be together. So we have some other ways to boost your oxytocin without that physical connection. And Jana had mentioned this earlier, is pet therapy. So very, very powerful. You can feel the heartbeat, the breathing, definitely can calm our own breathing down. So, cuddling or petting with a pet, giving a gift to someone, it can be very powerful, especially if you know that person really needs something. You can make that happen. Listening with your eyes, making that eye contact with people, and just really listening to what others have to say is the #1 way to engage in communication. Soaking in a hot tub, especially if it has Epsom salt in it, can be very healing. Try yoga. So yoga is stretching and strength, and oftentimes it helps you reconnect with the mind and body, and stretch, and get some movement in the neck and shoulders, especially when we're feeling stressed and our shoulders are up to our ears. So yoga is a great way. Meditation is another good way of just being in your space, breathing, just allowing yourself to kind of get away from social media, get away from the media, get away from TV, and especially if it's stressing you out, to just take a step outside and look around and realize that right now everything is okay in my little world or in your little world. So it definitely is a good way to just kind of put yourself back into the moment. Listen to music or sing. There's so many great songs. There's so many great different types of music that actually help relieve some anxiety. And so feel free to Google that. There's one of my favorites. It's called Marconi Union's Waitlist. And on YouTube, there's actually a 10-hour version of it, and it's supposed to decrease anxiety by 45%. And we can definitely put that link into the post-survey email if you're interested. Helping others, volunteering. So making calls, taking grocery orders, sending cards out. There's just a lot of different things. Writing letters. I just saw on social media, there were these older folks in a home who they were sending they were posting pictures of their address saying, will you be my pen pal? This is what I'm interested in. So, you know, getting back to that old-fashioned pen pal writing, an awesome way. And then just journaling also helps, like get all those thoughts down on paper. Very, very healing. We call that resiliency writing. Get all of those thoughts down on paper. Very good way to just get all those thoughts out of your mind. Okay, so what I want you to do is put your feet flat on the floor. We're actually going to practice some of these tips and techniques. And the cartoon here says, if I can't hug you in person, I'll just hug my computer and hope it'll reach you. So that's another way. Hug your computer. Okay, so what I want you to do as you're sitting here, put your shoulders down, a good posture, allowing that good posture allows your lungs to be able to be filled with as much oxygen as possible. And we're just going to breathe in and out through the nose. You can close your eyes if you'd like. If you can't breathe in or out through your nose, feel free to use your mouth. That's okay. Breathe in, fill your belly, fill your lungs, and exhale fully. Another deep breath in. And exhale. Good. One more. And exhale. We're really looking at that parasympathetic nervous system to calm and relax. Okay, the next one is the left nostril breathing. So there's a lot of research around this, that when we close our right nostril and just breathe in and out through our left, that has a calming effect on us. So if you can, like some people might have allergies right now where they can't breathe in through their left, but if you can, go ahead and try that right now, closing your right. You can either breathe in or breathe out through your mouth or through your nose. And one more. And exhale. And just notice how you feel. Another technique is just any exhale longer than the inhale. So that's why singing is so healing, chanting, sighing. So if you yourself all of a sudden sighs, that's just your body's way of trying to calm itself and relax. Or if you hear somebody sighing, oftentimes you say, is everything okay? What's wrong? And that's just their body's way of trying to just let it all out. And so a good breathing technique would be 4 counts in, 8 counts out. So we can try that right now. Comfortable position. Take a deep breath in, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go ahead and do that on your own one more time. Just breathe normal. Good. So of course, you want to practice this a lot longer than we did, more than 2 to 3 times, for as long as you need to. If you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, you know, whatever you have time for. It's good to practice this. There's a lot of research around havening. I don't know if anyone has heard about this, but it is getting more traction in therapy sessions. And so basically what it is it's techniques to help release that serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin. And so, you know, like I mentioned before, just hugging yourself, or taking either hand, and then starting at your shoulder, and then stroking your arm down from your shoulder down to your elbow. So you can just do this if you'd like to with us right now. You can close your eyes and just notice, do you feel like I immediately get goosebumps all over my whole body? It's very soothing. If you want, you can switch sides, do that a couple times on the other side. You don't have to go fast or slow, whatever feels comfortable for you. And that's just one of the havening techniques. Feel free to research a little bit more on that. There's tons of techniques that you can do. The next one is eye contact. So eye contact is huge as it relates to connection and releasing that oxytocin. So we're going to do a little bit of this right now, and I know it might be a little awkward, which it definitely sometimes can, especially because, you know, I can't see you, but you might be able to see me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stare into the camera, and I just want you to look at me, make eye contact with me, and just notice what happens. So it can be a little awkward, but it's so very, very powerful. So whenever you're out and about, if you can connect, have some eye contact, it's very bonding, and can definitely help that brain chemistry. And kids naturally do this. They want to have staring contests. They want to connect, and so it's a really good way to just work on that brain chemistry. Okay, some other tips. Floating or nature. So if you have ever heard of the float tanks, they're full of Epsom salt, and they help you kind of just become weightless. That's very, very healing. You could also go to a lake and float, go into a bathtub and float if you'd like to try that. It's good to kind of feel weightless and just kind of be there. Nature's another one, grounding and connecting to nature, listening to the birds and the wind, and just being in the moment. Also getting some vitamin D. We often call getting out there in nature vitamin N. Another one is saying hello and just doing some small talk with strangers as many times as you can when you're out and about. And I've noticed this a lot more with, you know, if I go to the store, the checkout person is making a little bit more small talk than they normally do. So it's happening. Having phone conversations, so very, very powerful. In May, I got woken up by a phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you know, usually if the phone rings at 6 o'clock, it's, you know, means something bad has happened in my experience. And so I jumped up and I answered the phone, and it was this older gentleman who said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got the wrong number." And of course, since it was so early in the morning, I just said, "Oh, that's okay. Is everything okay?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just lonely and trying to get a hold of some family members, but nobody's answering." And so an hour later, we hung up feeling lighthearted and connected. And I had never had that experience before, but it was just, everything was aligned. Like, I would never say, "Is everything okay?" to a wrong number. And because it was so early, I was already like, "Oh, something's wrong." It just came out, and we had an hour conversation. So probably will never happen again, but it was kind of an amazing time. But having that conversation with people over the phone whenever you can. So I'm calling that long lost friend of yours. Virtual calls like we're doing right now, you know, we got to do it. We've seen it a lot. FaceTime, you know, it's been around for a while, but now that it's more important than than ever to really connect face to face and have some staring contests with each other. And then take the action you wish others would take. So do you ever say, I wish I would get some mail, or I wish somebody would call me, or I wish somebody would ask me to go for a walk? And do it. Call someone, write a letter, send a postcard. We have quite a few postcards on the Change to Chill website under the merch shop, which I'll show you in a moment. Do the thing that you wish would happen. It can be very powerful. Jana, you want to take these actions?
So some other things to maybe consider: give others the benefit of a doubt. You know, people mean well. Nobody is out to get you. Practicing empathy is very important, recognizing that we're all going through this together and really in our own way. Kindness is something that we talk a lot about, but we don't really experience that a lot in our lives. So I encourage you to think about, you know, something must be going on in this person's life right now, and I don't know what that is, so I'm going to choose to be kind in the presence of maybe unkindness. Set your own boundaries and respect other people's boundaries. Not everybody is okay with maybe some of the things that you want to do or experience in this socially maybe somewhat disconnected world. If you want to connect in one way and people are not wanting that, you know, you're going to have to adapt or find different people to connect with. Now, one other thing that I think is really important and I wanted to mention to everyone, if you're watching this presentation, or if you're thinking, like, havening, hugging myself, you know, it's not really my cup of tea, deep breathing, you know, I don't know anything about it, those mindfulness tools. You know, please don't be discouraged. Please don't feel like you have to jump on this wagon of practicing all these skills today. Some of them might not resonate with you at all, ever, and that's totally okay. So what Stacey and I really encourage you to do is take one of the things maybe that was mentioned today and start working with it in one way or the other. I am naturally, personally, not the person who loves the havening or you know, hugging myself or any of those kind of touchy-feely things. So this is really hard for me to sometimes look at and go, wow, you know, I really want to do that. Or journaling, you know, can be tough for some people. They can perceive it as boring, or, you know, it takes my time away from something else. Pick one thing that you look at on the list of things that we talked about, and just experience that. For me, when we started being physically distant and I needed that connection to something or someone, and I was kind of losing my mind. I felt like, I'm like, man, I feel so cooped up here. I started working with nature. I started going on a walk and doing those mindful walks where I actually look at the trees and listen to the sounds of the wind. And it sounds a little bit weird, and maybe in some cases it will be like, well, that's self-explanatory. We always do that, but do we really? Every time I went on the same walk every single day around the same neighborhood, I noticed new things. And this is where it's all at. You take one thing that resonates the most with you right now and start working with that. And practice self-compassion. This is all completely new to us. We've never lived through pandemic. I have never been in this situation before. And I'm sure a majority of you have never experienced anything similar or different or anything like that. So just give yourself some grace. Give yourself a lot of kindness. We all need this. If you're healthy, volunteer, lend a helping hand, go get groceries for your neighbor. I live in a neighborhood where we have a lot of elderly folks who lost their loved ones in the last year or so. So as a community here, we do volunteer to go get their groceries. I know there's a lot of grocery services, but they prefer to know who's coming to their door and kind of have that social interaction even behind the screen. It's still wonderful and good for them. So find something where you can lend a helping hand. And this one, man, it's so tough. If you need help, allow people to help you by asking for something that you might need. That is really hard. We are, especially some of us, personality traits, we just don't ask for help. It's not easy. It doesn't come easy to us. But if you do need something, it's a learning experience experience and one of those things that maybe resonates with you today where you need something and you don't know how to ask for it, start taking steps of figuring that out. That is very important. And promote positive messages and spread positive energy. You know, all we hear on the news, unfortunately, and a lot of it is this many deaths due to COVID, or this is what's happening. It's kind of gloomy and dark, but there is a lot of good out there. There's a lot of positivity. And in every challenge, there lies an opportunity to connect and do things differently and learn something new. Even in this, nobody here, I'm sure, likes the situation we're in, but what good did it bring you? You know, for me, my personal experience, I got really close to my family. Even those in my family that I didn't necessarily want to get close to, I was forced to build some relationships that in the past I was like, it's too much. I'm not interested. I don't want to put energy or time or work into it. That was my opportunity. What is your opportunity today? And focus on commonalities instead of differences. And that's in our personal life and just generally where we are in the world right now. What can we gather behind and support all together? Things like kindness, compassion, helping, doing things for others. We can all gather behind it and stand by it. So focusing on those type of things as a community of people that maybe live together in your family, or perhaps where you live, or people that you work with, is really, really important.
Good, thank you, Jana. That was some really good examples. And so what I want you to do in the chat right now is how do you socially connect? And what we'll do is we'll take those that haven't been mentioned already, and we can definitely add that list to the follow-up survey. So please feel free to do that right now. Here are the postcards that I was talking to you. This is on our website. So feel free to order them. They're free to order. And that spot on our website is under activities and tools, and then you can see the green circle at the bottom is check out our merch shop, and then you can print out a whole bunch of different do-it-yourself activities, coloring pages, exercises, audio meditations, just quite a few different tools to try. If you want to, you can determine what your values are. This is under our life balance, so feel free to check this out. Practicing gratitude, sleep, self-care, a lot of good things on the website. We have recorded all of our sessions. This is our third session, and the powerful practice of self-care and gratitude that we've done in the last few weeks is on there, and we will be posting this recording as well. And our next session is next Thursday, and it's on mindful eating. So please feel free, if you have not registered for that one already, join us again next week, and we would love to have you. Jean and I will be staying on the call. If anyone has any questions, feel free to post those in the chat, and we will be here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.